Thanks a lot, guys. Welcome back to the caster desk, which is getting progressively shorter as the day goes on, now that I'm subbing in for Atlas. I'm, of course, Richard Pauls Cam. Alongside me, James O'Leary, my partner in crime from the EU Challenger Series.
Yeah, and it's a long way around the world here down to Australia, but having an absolute blast already with a lot of these games. And I think one of the real key fun little storylines coming into this is the one that Quickshot just touched on, which is the oldest and arguably most successful wildcard region. I mean, you even look at their results from Worlds for the CBLOL Brazilian region. Now we're going up against the absolute youngest region in the IWC, the format of regions. And, the Japanese scene is so young still, only a handful of really splits to their name, and some of the things that they're doing though is really cool. I love watching the Japanese teams play because they're always unpredictable, always exciting.
Always exciting. You even heard it on the analyst desk as well. They were talking about the Rift Herald, even going to Seros as well, seeing how he can use that in the mid lane. And on top of that, you look at the Japanese scene, how they've done over the last couple of tournaments in the international wildcard tournaments alone, and they have gotten progressively better. That was only over 2, however. So was that a blip in the radar, or are they getting better every time we see them? That's the question I need answered both today and the next 4 days.
I think you're going to get it, Pulse. I think you're going to get that kind of answer.
They are going to be facing a bunch of teams to kind of test their skills. Teams even against like the Brazilians who have gone up against the best in the world.
Yeah.
So this will be a very good benchmark to see where the Japanese are standing.
I'm really looking forward to seeing this mid lane matchup. Kami against Seros, because Seros, in the couple of games that we could find from the farewell party in Japan, he played Ezreal AD mid lane. Which I don't think is particularly great on this patch. He also played Ryze, which we've just seen is great. So we've kind of got this coin flippy, like, is he going to go for something kind of crazy? Is he going to go for something that is very standard and very good? Whereas Kami on the other side, I think you just look at and you say, okay, well, he can play most things. I'm really anticipating, hoping he picks Lux. Because he's an old Lux main.
Lux at the moment.
It was the old story about Kami, but I actually think Lux is pretty strong on this patch as well, so it does suit him down to a T, but he is a player that showed so much versatility at Worlds. Yeah,
we should be getting into that champion select soon, but of course Seros as well, if you don't know him as a player, big Zillion player, and you heard that right, in the mid lane, so we're going to see if that comes into play. The true wild card of this champion select is going to be that Zillion here, Stress. And the first ban has been Soraka.
Okay.
So the bananas are off the table. Misfortune has also been banned away by the Japanese. And Dr. Mundo will be the next ban from CBL.
I love that the Brazilian team is just like, I don't want to deal with any kind of healing team.
Yeah,
Get that out of here. Nope. Don't want any of that, which has been very effective in solo queue, but there are ways to play around it in competitive. The first way to play around it is ban it.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be an option today.
Step 1 complete.
The LJL. And, they did show us... in fact, the LJL didn't really play either Soraka or Dr. Mundo. They actually banned out a bunch of stuff, like had Brand banned away from them in the farewell games. I kind of taking them with a pinch of salt, because a lot of those bans and the plays in the games were a little bit less than, competitive level serious. So there is a lot of freedom on this patch. A lot of the standard bans we're seeing come out here. And interesting one, Malphite, Scream's first pick Jax coming out here. Jax or Aurelia, I would imagine, is what Lep is going to look for here in the top lane.
So it's all down to the Japanese. What's their final ban going to be? Will it be that Jax? Will it be Aurelia? No matter what they ban, there's going to be a Guinsoo's user up in the top lane for a Brazilian team.
The other thing is, if they don't, Kindred will be available for a first pick, or the Kalista will be up. There are so many blue side high priority picks that could be picked up here by the CBLOL team that, honestly, it's now down to what do they prioritize the most. Do they want the Kindred out of the jungle for a high damage based composition to look to close a game early, plus have that extra utility from the ultimate, or do they go for a stronger AD carry? We haven't delved too deep into the AD carry pits here at the 5v5 tournament, or the portion of the tournament for IWCA, so I'm interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, there's a lot still open. Jax was the final ban, so Japan did read that out from Brazil. It's going to put them in a bit of a loop just while they wait for what their first pick will be. You mentioned how many picks are open, actually. In fact, Kindred, of course, is a big pick, but Rek'Sai will be the choice for Brazil here as their priority, and that has just left open many priority picks for the first 2 picks coming in for LJL.
Yeah, Rek'Sai was not the pick that I thought they were going to look for there. I mean, Kindred typically in the games that we've seen, specifically 521 with IEM, a lot of the tournaments that happened just between Worlds and now at IWCA, Kindred was a pretty much first pick. If she was up, or if they were up, was a first pick. priority. So Rek'Sai being taken is very strong on 522, is one of the warrior-based junglers that we have seen, although in the last game Carbon did go for the Cinderhulk. So a little bit of a different change-up out of the OPL team. I'm looking forward to seeing how Revolta is going to play it. Of course, we saw his early game presence in the last game.
We did indeed, and how effective that was, but we're still waiting on the Japanese first two picks. They are utilizing all of the time available to them to decide on what they want, and it looks like we're going to be seeing that Lucian come out. Many AD carries are regarding Lucian to be the strongest, if not in the top 3 AD carries right now, and Gragas is going to be coming back in as well for the jungle. Of course, Gragas was a huge pick before 522. You have to see how he adapts to the meta. If you actually went back a patch and just said, this game is from the last patch, this wouldn't, you know, confuse you too much. Maybe the bans would confuse a little bit, but Rek'Sai, Gragas, and Lucian being prioritized, maybe not so much.
I like the priority here from the LJL team. They're looking for lane dominance in Lucian right now. Expect them to pick up something like a Thresh, I would imagine, coming out here just for absolute dominance. And then they're going for disengage out of the jungle. They're saying that whatever you throw at us, we're just going to push back and allow our lane presence to win the fights that we want to take and stop you from ever fighting us when we don't want to.
That's what they have so far, but there's a lot of room to maneuver in Champions League. They have another 3 picks ready and available for them. Still waiting for Brazil's next 2 picks. We're toying with the idea of something a little bit different, but they will lock in the Caitlyn and Bard. Caitlyn, again, going to be sitting in that top 3 of trifectas when you look at the AD carries. Caitlyn is just mental right now. You can almost match Graves damage and burst in laning phase with the classic combo that's now evolved with the headshot, the E, the Q, the headshot once again. So we'll see how well BRTT has practiced that champion. And from what we saw earlier today on Misfortune, I'd probably say pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like he has prioritized a lot of the upcoming AD carries. I mean, Caitlyn now has a significant range advantage over Lucian. A long time ago, he had 50 range shaved off his auto attack. So now Caitlyn, being, you know, significantly longer range, will pressure Lucian. It is now going to be a battle of how do the piercing lights line up. It's on BRTT to just avoid as many as he can and then just return fire with the damage. That is exactly what that lane is going to do. Bard is an interesting one because we did see Bard in the beginning of the day on loop. And it worked very well. He was catching people very effectively, comboing it with the cocoons that came from Revolta. This time that's not available. It's going to be on the Rek'Sai to tunnel in and follow up.
Yeah, that was very much a wombo combo comp that we saw earlier today. This is something a little bit different. The next 2 picks have come out from Japan. That will be the Morgana and the Hecarim. And Hecarim is seeing some more play nowadays, both in the top lane and jungle. I've actually seen it now. Morgana could be in that support role, could also be mid lane, try and neutralize Kami in the mid lane, depending on what he goes for. And the final pick will, well, they have multiple flexes, so we're not sure quite where Japan are going to throw that one.
So Hecarim Blind seems like a bit of a weird one until you start looking at the champions that are left. Normally Aurelia as a Rageblade champion would be a high priority here, looking at the top lane. The problem is Hecarim is such an effective champion into Aurelia. Because of his passive, you just stand on the minion that Aurelia is about to Q, or at least this was how it used to go. Used to just stand on the minion and just kind of outlast Aurelia with Spirit of Dread. I don't know whether that is as effective. I would love to see that matchup, but we're not going to get it.
No, not today. The mechanics have changed, probably, I would have to assume.
I assume so.
But I don't know. Gunsoo's, yeah, exactly. Azir, the Emperor of Shurima, has entered the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. He will be going into the mid lane. Shen has also been picked up. And with Bard being locked in, that Shen will be going to the top lane. Still yet to see any Shens go for the build that I personally love, which is Titanic Hydra and Triforce, where you just poop out damage, and it's disgusting to play
against. The mastery we did see. I wonder whether we will see the Zillion here. I mean, the OPL casters we've been talking to, they're like, he's going to Zillion anytime it's available. And I'm looking at this, well, like, they were right.
Hey,
they're 100% right.
Yep.
I almost doubted them for a second, but there it is. I trust in OPL, we trust. Well, maybe not in-game, but seemingly out of game, we trust in them. And maybe the 1v1s as well. But there is the Zillion. Not a champion that you really see at all.
No, but Seras has made a name for himself on this champion. And we actually haven't seen Zillion for such a long time because of all the change that happened. Now you can place those bombs on the floor, you put 2 on top of each other. That's an AoE stun. is incredibly strong on paper. We just haven't seen any mid laner make use of it to the maximum potential.
And one of the biggest things was that his ultimate then didn't get ticked down by cooldown. You didn't reduce the cooldown on that every time you used it, which was the old big thing about Zilean, was you could get 2 ults off in a team fight just by spamming W when you got later into the game. That doesn't happen anymore. So very interesting to see them opting for this, but it's tower pushing is the name of the game for the CBLOL team. Caitlyn, Azir, Bard to pretty much put the presence there behind a tower with a Shen in a side lane, with a Rek'Sai in a side lane. This could be a very effective fast push kind of strategy coming out from the CBLOL team.
Oh yeah, there's no shortage of support either, as you mentioned, the Shen on the top lane. Meanwhile, you've got the Zilean with the Hecarim combination, speed up that pony, throw him into the front lines. Lucian as well, on top of the Morgana. Morgana's just going to shield everyone all day. That is an initiation you cannot stop. Hecarim jumps in with Black Shield and Zilean on top of him, plus the potential of the Chrono Shift. What are you going to do? Hecarim runs at you, you kill him, he comes back.
That's a good question that I hope we get an answer to. And I am really just looking forward to seeing this mid lane Zilean into Azir matchup. Honestly, this is one of the matchups that I'm really looking forward to. Kami just as a player, Syros as one of these wildcard players will just bring anything, and he's brought Zilean to the table today.
Yeah, the best thing about these strange picks is the person who's picking the strange pick knows exactly what to do in every single matchup. The other person has no idea what to do. It's Zilean mid lane, I'm picking Azir, what do I do? I'm not really sure. He might just throw me off my game with something completely random. We're about to find out what happens in this game. Brazil versus Japan. First time we're going to see the Japanese team enter the Rift. I'm expecting great things here, Stress.
Yes, I'm expecting great things. I'm also expecting great things from Kami. He's bought my favorite item on 5.22, the Dark Seal. It's the mini Medjais, which is incredibly risky because you don't really get many lane stats. When you compare it to a Doran's Ring, where you get the extra health, you get the more ability power, and that Dark Seal will give you a little bit more effective health from potions. You get 25% more healing, but the key component of it is assists grant you 1 stack, kills grant you 2 stack. Make it a Medjais, that'll grant you 4 stacks for kill, 2 for an assist. You get up to the top echelons of stacks on a Medjais very quickly, up to 25, but you will lose 10 if you die on a Medjais.
Yeah,
so it's risky. Kami doesn't intend on dying anytime soon.
No, it's the definition of all in this mid lane. Kami, yeah, and remember it gives flat mana and not mana regen, which Saros will have. So he's basically on a timer to pick up a kill or do well in that lane. Otherwise, Saros will just outlast him.
Didn't take long. On a timer, we've gone straight back into it.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
God,
always going.
I missed this. I missed this, but it's a little too soon for me. You need to kind of like warm me back up to the jokes and the wordplay.
Okay, so yeah. Anyway, in his bottom lane, Loop and BRTT. Saw the misfortune earlier. We'll be sitting on that Caitlyn in this game. And speaking to a couple of people are generally saying that the second match from the second maxed ability from Caitlyn, people are starting to max the W, using it as like a mid-game kind of siege comp type pick. Also around objectives, you can just start trapping up an entire area, actually just block up whole sections of the jungle. It's like, well, what do I do now? I literally can't go through here.
It's great. When you get to 5, you can actually cover pretty much the inhibitor. In where the destroyed tower is in front of it, you can kind of put 3 on one side, 2 on the other, and say, okay, try and walk through.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you try, I'm going to kill you. Although if your inhibitor tower's already down, you're probably not going to walk too far through there, but it's just those little nuances on the map, areas that you can cover.
Very, very true. In the top lane, though, I'm actually very interested because you look at this Corrupting Potion coming out from Evie versus Lep, who's gone for the Doran Shield. Some debate on whether Doran Shield is actually worth it now, because you have the health regen. Okay, sure, you have the passive, which reduces auto-attack and single target damage to you, but then you look at like a Doran's Blade, which gives you the same amount of health, which you want as Shen. You also get the lifesteal if you're auto-attack trading against the minions, and straight up, it just kind of seems better. But we're still seeing a lot of Shens up towards the Doran Shield regardless.
It's almost as if you played a lot of Shen in the preseason.
Really?
I can tell you he has gone Grasp of the Undying, but interestingly, mid lane, Kami getting a very early blue buff given over to him by Revolta. So that will compensate for the lack of mana regen that comes from having Dark Seal. Also, the fact that Azir in this kind of matchup, where you can just shove in the Zilean time and time again, force him to use his own mana, Kami should be fairly safe when it comes to his laning phase, so shouldn't get punished too hard for picking up Dark Seal.
So far from what I've seen from Saros is he literally just double bombs the wave, and if Kami's caught in there, great, whatever. Otherwise, I'm just going to shove it towards you.
Yeah.
I would like to see a stun come down because that would be a lot of damage against Kami. It's actually a fairly big radius, around the same as the attack range of that Sand Soldier, but Saros, he's still pretty healthy on the mana. He hasn't even popped many of his potions either, so he's not hurting.
And Kami just gets hit by one of them. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to take one of these bombs and I'll avoid the other, and doesn't really mind how that's going at this point. But this mid lane matchup, it's going to be a later game mid lane matchup. Azir into Zilean, you need a couple of items under both of them to really start hurting. Evie, however, top lane, gets taunted.
Gets the taunt literally as Evie was trying to get away with the E, but he's turning it around with the auto attack, the rampage, the flash away, but the ignite comes down, it's not quite enough, and Revolta is literally going to chase him down. Actually flashes through the minions, make sure he doesn't get creep locked there. First blood over to Brazil.
Nice taunt onto Evie, did also consume the knockback, consume the extra movement speed that would have come through, so good play out from Lep, knowing as well when to back away from that. Obviously, Grasp of the Undying gave him a little bit more health. I think it was barely enough to keep him alive. That is the difference on Keystone Masteries, is if he didn't have Grasp of the Undying, he potentially could have been dead there. Those really meaningful choices that come up when you're putting in the Keystone Masteries, you can see just about affected that top lane, you know, the ending result.
Yeah, no potential about it. He would have been dead.
Yeah.
He was on single digits of HP, but we do have Gragas. Rain Brain is coming in from the side. That's a very short range. Shifting Sands coming out. I'm not sure that's going to save him. Flash away and the barrier burn. Oh, it's actually enough. That is disgusting. Saras in the mid lane picks up the kill onto Kami.
That's a really important first kill onto Syros as well, because now Kami has to respect everything that Syros is doing in this lane. Syros hits the level 6, means that Kami right now isn't going to be able to all-in him, cannot really get anything from this lane, so has to now stack up this Medjay's or the Dark Seal in other lanes on the map. He cannot get that from mid lane, and at that point, that's when the itemization comes back to bite you. I mean, this is a very small and bad silver lining, but dying with no stacks doesn't harm you on the itemization. So if there was a time for Kami to only die, if he finishes this game with one death, it's worth. However, as long as he wins, of course.
Yeah. I'm not sure Kami has faith in Kami at this point, though, because he hasn't gone for the Medjay's, he's actually just gone straight for the Stinger.
Oh,
so
no,
he's going straight. You never upgrade?
In my estimation, you don't do that. That's risky. That is like, I'm 5 kills already in this lane, I'm just going to snowball
But isn't even
hard.
picking up the Dark Seal in the first place saying that I'm just going to win this lane?
It is, but at the same time, it's also like I'm going to get a lot of assists and not die for it. I mean, I agree with the thinking.
Yeah.
There is like a slightly less risky play on that, but certainly Medjay's insta-rush is insanity pretty much at its best.
I would have liked to see Kami pick up the first blood and see if he would have done that.
I would have liked to have known that. I think he would have.
Yeah, I think so too. However, Kami jumps over the wall, wants a bit of damage back onto Saras, just gives him a bit of a love tap as he heads on back. Muoki in the bottom lane though, BRTT taking a couple auto attacks, and also the Light Slinger as well. Those traps are still coming down. Keeping up that line of traps, very difficult to just kind of get in range of those back minions. BRTT using that to his advantage. Meanwhile, Dara cleaning out his jungle, and Revolta just kind of hanging around, just burrowed up, so he does have vision on everyone who is on that side of the map from the Japanese team.
Yeah, and at this point, see, second blues have come up. Saras is going to look to get this one for himself. Kami's is going to be at a little bit of a weird timing, so he has to be careful in this lane right now. Doesn't have that much mana regen. Now is against a blue buffed up Zilean, and he's got to wait a good minute or so before his is actually available, so has to absolutely respect that Saras is going to just shove him in again and again.
Also interesting, Saras has picked up a very early Boots of Lucidity, which also reduces summoner spells now. And also if you go with the Distortion on top of that, plus the Mastery, you can get your summoner spells down really low. I think it's 40% if you combine all of those components. And you're getting Teleport back down to 3 minutes. You're also getting the Flash on 3 minutes because they share the same cooldown. So Saras is actually looking for more of the utility, going less for the damage and more for that mid-game, late-game.
It is interesting to see the teleport again. And again, the reasoning is, as you were talking about, the cooldown reduction is the key part of that. It wouldn't be the same if you were looking to go for a mid lane that doesn't really opt towards that. So that's why we've seen some instances of the teleport, some instances without. That is one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing evolve over this preseason patch. especially when it plays into the Rift Herald, is how important is winning mid lane to allow the freedom to get the Rift Herald, because we haven't seen that focus. We haven't seen early game focus onto Rift Herald yet in any of our games.
I honestly think over the next 4 days we're going to see teams starting to adapt. I don't think it will be long before we see either the duo lane from bot lane swap to top or even mid, so you can start challenging both Dragon and the Herald. Luke, meanwhile, the ultimate on top of himself, and Dara's will proc. There comes the Shen ultimate, actually keeps him alive. They need to take him out before Shen arrives. Actually comes down, gets the taunt coming in, but Seras, his teleport also comes in. He gets the Chrono Shift. No one is dead just yet. Lep dodges the first bomb, not even sure if it was meant for him. Doesn't get the stun out, and after all of that, no one dies.
Loop survived that entire fight by kind of just faking out what was happening there. I think that he was trying to just fake the play with the magical journey and just try and exit out to the lane, but he just walks through, flashes and walks down through the lane. That is just Loop outplaying in that situation. Yes, okay, there's a lot to be said from the Stand United that came out from that as well, but that was a nice little tricksy play.
Yeah, genius or just super stupidity that they just didn't think would happen. But 1-1 on the scoreboard, and we've had so much action in the first 10 minutes. Just not a lot of kills have gone down. And when you have Zillion, no one can kill you in the Zillion, or anyone else in their team apparently. So not too much going to happen there. But we'll see the Sand Soldiers once again push out. Despite Seras going into the bottom lane, he still has the CS advantage in the middle lane over Kami. He did die once, but it wasn't a huge minion wave that hit the turret.
One thing I love, and it's the reason that Seras is going to be able to keep this CS lead, is realizing they're against a tower pushing team. Seras has gone, okay, I'm going to go tier into instant level 3 Lucidity boots with teleport. So I'm always going to be in my lane. You've got to try and find opportunities elsewhere.
Okay, great onslaught of shadows will fear Lep back into Rainbrain. Fantastic flash coming in from Lep. That will actually be catapulting himself away using Rainbrain and his ultimate, so he'll be going back to tower, but he will have to go back to base, has the teleport available, and Stand United is about a third cooldown left, so he's good to go. Actually very difficult to get anything of value from a Shen gank unless you 100% have the kill.
Yep, yeah, unless you know you're absolutely getting it, good luck, because you're going to get taunted, and there's feint, and you're just going to run after him down the lane. But it does, however, open up the priority for Rift Herald. Doesn't go to Seras, it goes to Evie, and I think that's the right play here. Seras is doing well enough in his own lane, is able to just push through, and then never going to push to the turret safely. Put it up onto the Hecarim, already going to be able to help him out in that top lane.
Yeah, Seras doesn't really want to get closer to Kami, because that's when Kami will start murdering him. So Mueki in the bottom lane, still farming away. Caitlyn has a large CS advantage, which, to be honest, is kind of to be expected with the large range advantage, and Mueki not really getting those big all-ins that he'd like from the ultimate as well. Still has his flash, doesn't have the heal, but neither does the BRTT. We're looking at Loop and Havolta right now, going into the jungle of the Japanese. Mueki taking away the Grump, and still has that Tremor Sense. We're going to see him going into lane, but they know the support is still stuck up and away from his AD carry. Luke comes in with the kill, actually. We're going to see if he starts building AD carry. Will stop that turret from activating, and Mueki has to go off to the left-hand side to try and escape the assault coming in from the Brazilians, but it's not going to be to any effect, and they pick up a second kill in that engage.
I like it, the makeshift dome wrecker, but mid lane Kami's in trouble.
He is in a whole heap of trouble. There comes the Emperor's Divide, and the Shen ultimate comes in. Lep is looking for blood, comes in with the auto attack, gets the key strike down. Loop is now right behind him, giving him the movement speed boost coming in from the Caretaker's Shrine. It's not quite enough to chase down the Hecarim. He's still faster on 4 feet. Meanwhile, BRTT in the bottom lane takes the tower in response.
Another fight with very little in the way of casualties coming from it, and BRT taking the tower is pretty much the significant thing here, because now it frees him up to go elsewhere. And if you thought Caitlyn was difficult enough to get off a turret as she's pushing as it was, is building by the looks of it, or it could be a static shiv, I guess, but is looking perhaps towards the rapid fire cannon that we've seen a couple of times. Could be static shiv. I kind of hope it's rapid fire. See like an 800 plus range Caitlyn, where you just run up to a tower and hit it from half a lane away, but that is remains to be seen. Has opted for Infinity Edge first, though. So that is something we actually were expecting to start falling off a lot. Yeah. Just because of the way the numbers were changed on it. It became less of a first item, more of a third item. Once you have some attack speed, once you have some extra damage, then you can start applying the extra crit.
It definitely feels like a comfort build, you know? Like, just going back to what worked before the patch and not thinking too much about the future. But still, the Infinity Edge coming out will be a decent chunk of damage. Remember now, it does give slightly less AD, but it is still an Infinity Edge. It still does a lot of damage. Rainbrain and Dara Gonna head towards this dragon. Has reset very briefly, but should get control over the Rift Scuttler. Crab down. And Havolta waiting over the wall. Still sees them under the tremor sense. Rainbrain starting to head into this jungle, try and take out all of these outside tunnels, just to try and prevent some of that mobility from Havolta. Rainbrain now into the mid lane and joining Muaki. They should be able to get this push down. It's only Kami there, and the rest of the Brazilian lineup is a little slow to respond.
But ult is up though.
Catches Gragas. He's going to drink it off. He's out of there. Taking some more auto attacks, taking a little bit more damage, but there is the calling coming in from Muaki. It's kind of a lot of poking, war of attrition right now, but BRTT caught right in the middle of the Venn diagram of those bombs. And there's a lot of poking coming out. Both these teams have a lot of tools to chunk down their opponents, soften them up before a fight.
4v4 in the mid lane is well underway, and both teams are just going to clear this away. Next time this happens, the CBLOL team, the Brazilian team, may be in a better position to look to push the turret, but they're going to opt for the easier objective right now, get the first dragon of the game. There's no real other objectives for them to take right now. Good spot just being like, okay, dragon's us. Doesn't matter that they've got the Rift Scuttler, let's just take it.
Yeah, swift rotation as well. Even the Japanese had the vision over the area with the pre-taken Rift Scuttler coming in from Rainbrain, so just weren't really feeling a fight right there. They have a lot of disengage, whether they have a lot of damage without Hecarim is kind of remains to be seen. Well, more like the answer is no. But 3-1 right now. TBL are leading this game by around 2,000 gold. Do have that tower and the first dragon. And honestly, before heading into this tournament, I was like, are we actually going to see people prioritizing dragon at all? Because you don't really get that much on the first 4 dragons. And if one is disrupted, then you're probably never going to hit 5. Then in the first game of the day, we saw a 52-minute game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that remained to be seen with a lot of the discussion about the patch 5.22 was we didn't see competitive games. You didn't see games with a lot of communication where objective control is a lot easier to do. And you let 2 Rift Heralds go away, 2 towers go down to your top laner, suddenly you're in a commanding position of the game, and the other team don't have communication to react. However, in a 5v5 setting, games are going to go longer, and then Dragon becomes more effective. It's still the same as it always has been. Earlier dragons mean for less, and it's obviously a stacking mechanic, but Rift Herald does have some early game presence, and teams will have to be aware of that. It's just what your team composition actually wants to go for.
Nice sidestep coming in from Havolta. He will be tunneling away from the action. Rainbrain very fast to take away that tunnel, making sure there's less options to be tunneled to with Havolta's ultimate. Evi still sticking around this top lane turret, does not have a lot of health points left. Bombs on both of the mid laners, still being chunked out by these Sand Soldiers going towards the turret. It will be timing out a little bit faster. Evi with the ultimate now coming in, gets the fear backwards, and has to flash into the body slam from Rainbrain, looking for the ultimate, finds Loop, is enough damage, it is, takes him out just before the journey, but what? Where's Jen? He actually went through the magical. He's just like, I'm out, see ya.
That may have been a miss.
Where are you going? Your team needs you.
I just saw him fly through the magical journey. Oh dear, that's going to be the turret going down towards the LJL team. But they're not done yet.
Rainbrain looking for engage number 2. This one is not going to go too well. Soros had his ultimate as well, but apparently Gragas was not valuable enough to use his ultimate on. And there comes the ultimate now onto Evi. He's the priority target. Havolta's going to limp away. Meanwhile, Kami taking some damage on the back lines, but he's still good to go. Looking for the ultimate to come through from Caitlyn, but I believe it was interrupted coming in there. However, she's still got her sights on Muaki. Eventually, that ultimate is going to come through.
Eventually, it'll take a while. Now they're looking to push the turret as BRTT is pushing that through. Has a significant amount of damage right now, pushing down on that turret, and has a significant CS lead as well. I mean, that is where a significant part, and I've said significant a lot there, that's where a large part of the gold lead on this game is. 1,600 gold between the AD carries. Is a massive amount when you look at the fact that it's only 1 kill really on an AD carry. That is mostly from farm, and it was a higher value just before that fight started. So really BRTT is showing up in these sets of games, is looking pretty good. Was on Misfortune in game 1 of the day, and did get caught out a couple of times just by getting blown up before his ultimate went out. This time Caitlyn far less reliant on just an ultimate like bullet time. All he's got to do, position at the back of the fight and just keep dealing damage.
And it's also an ultimate here that you could use before a fight as well to start softening up your opponents. So will not be as much of a problem. Plus the extended range is going to be way happier in those back lines. Lep and Evie still at the 1v1 in the top lane. Only small CS differential, basically the same right now. And also has the Sunfire Cape already purchased. So Lep is pretty much good to go in the top lane department. He can basically contain Evie for the next century if he wants, as long as it remains like this. As soon as Evie starts picking up kills, starts hitting those item spikes like the Triforce, it'll be a little bit harder for Lep to deal with. Evie was trying to recall, but he was doing so on top of a ward. And Luke will be taking that one away real quick. And Evie will have to back off and pick a little bit of a better spot to go back to base. But it has delayed his timings overall on where he wants to go by around 8 seconds. Going into the bottom lane now, he will be pushing it out. But the wave is already away from him and pushing towards the opposing tower. So we'll see what he does around the bottom lane.
Yeah, right now, of course, on 522, the minion changes were not adapted. So it means that if you are behind, minions can still push away from you in this situation. So it just pushes a whole bunch of farm to BRTT. He will, of course, even that out. But LJL do know that they had a little window there just to push up, get a few wards. But the CBLOL team are reacting. They're putting just their own wards down into the jungle, clearing out the wards that the LJL team just managed to establish. And right now, you look at what the LJL team have to do, and it is a bit of a tall ask because somehow they have to lock down BRTT in these fights, and there really are no tools outside the Hecarim ultimate. They didn't get them there.
That is not good. That is very not good. And the ultimate coming in from Rainbrain. BRTT manages to get out just by the skin of his teeth. Meanwhile, Havolta around the side. The flash forward coming in from Seros, but the stand united as well. The shield should be enough. Meanwhile, Rainbrain will be going down, but he has the Chronos shift on top of him. Seros was able to get that one out in time. Luke will be taking the magical journey out of the fight, but the rest of the team wants to go in. He's pinging everyone back. It's like, just take the journey, guys. Push out the wave. Actually, I'm going to push out the wave. I need the gold. And Havolta will be the one to clean that up as they decide to back off. Only one kill on Tadara from what looked like a fantastic play from the Japanese.
It looked like a great catch onto BRTT, who was just stood out in the middle of, or in the side of the lane outside the minion wave. So a really weird set of circumstances there to get caught on a Caitlyn with a Dark Binding. That should almost never happen. Provided that minion wave is there, you just stand behind the minions. That is what makes Caitlyn so very strong against a champion like Morg, is you can never lock her down if the Caitlyn is playing correctly. Unfortunately, in that situation, Caitlyn gets caught, does survive, but it did force a fight in that situation. However, it doesn't really mean too much for the CBLOL team, as they're just going to take the second dragon in the game for themselves. And they should get away from this. They have the magical journey available. They shouldn't get caught, but they want to fight.
Well, Luke's looking for it. Luke, I feel like, is maybe on his own page a lot of the time. I've seen multiple plays from this game and also the other one that they played, where Luke is kind of calling the shots, but only to himself.
I like it, though. Like, as bad, realistically, as bad, when you're ahead, that's what you have to do, is you have to see the opening and look at the range that you can use the Bard ultimate that makes it almost unavoidable for a team from the LGL. It means you're just looking for those opportunities to catch a flash, catch a summoner spell, which is already a win. The Bard ultimate starts getting really short on the cooldown, and if you can just catch one person or get a few summoners, it's already worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought that Luke was doing the wrong thing. I've always just felt that like he was the only one following call, and the rest of the team was maybe a second and a half behind him. And that has led to some of the plays like before, where we saw the Lissandra ult, both him and his AD carrying this. So, well, I guess we're dead now, because you know, the rest of the team wasn't there.
That really is one of the interesting things about an All-Star tournament, is that can happen to pretty much any All-Star team as well. So you see that dynamic of players that aren't particularly used to playing with each other, maybe aren't too used to playing with a Bard. I mean, I don't know exactly how used to it BRTT is. You have to be used to it in some capacity, but if Loop makes these plays that are significantly different from a player that BRTT is used to, it is very different when it comes to mentality in a game, because you have to trust in that person to land the Bard ultimate, to look for those plays.
I mean, it's true. I've heard that this team actually hasn't had a lot of time to prepare as a group, or haven't really decided to do that. Lep is actually being chased down here, was getting the better of Evie, managed to get outside of the range of the Soul Shackles, and as a result, I'm not entirely sure if he's able to be taken down. Actually, Evie will be able to get the Rampage and knock him away from the wall. Great binding as well stops the Shadow Dash.
The key thing is, though, he took a lot of time from the LJL support and top laners, and took a lot of health off, so the CBLOL team were pushing on towards the Baron. did pull back away as they weren't quite doing it fast enough, and the rest of the LJL team were in position to contest. But there was a split second there. Kami's caught.
The flash from Rainbrain finds Kami right into the dark binding, but he's actually disgusting damage going on to Dari. He'll take him out, looking for the 2v1 meanwhile. There comes the Emperor of the Sands, bringing up the turret. This is Shuriman land now. And Moaki, he's also taking a bunch of damage. Evi's gonna go underneath the turret, but there's the Stand United. Is he gonna go huge? Not quite today. Finds the second shutdown though, onto that Hecarim. Meanwhile, that was almost a kill onto Mueki. The ultimate had to be used from Seras. Almost a triple kill coming out from Kami. Meanwhile, overall, that was a 2-for-3 coming in for the Japanese.
Kami once again showing a little bit of his strength there on a mid laner like Azir. That time, he got the kill, went in aggressive and was like, great, I'm getting stacks, guys. And you can see him desperately try and hold on to them as this is the replay once again. This was the start of the fight. Watch the teleport on the top side of your map. Teleport coming in from the Zillion as well. We are back into the live game as I thought Seras had been caught out there.
Looked like he was under some heat, but he's good to go. As we mentioned, can't kill him as in Howard. He actually has died once. Wait, this is the patch where Caitlyn just says boom headshot over and over again, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Just heard it there once. It will not be the last time we hear it this tournament. Muaki in the mid lane. Picked up the Essence Reaver, by the way. That was his first item. Gone into the Static Shiv, and now on that pickaxe as well. Essence Reaver pretty much the item of choice for a lot of AD carries. Both that plus a crit item brings him up to basically 40% CDR. You get a lot of CDR from that item. Maximum you can get is 30% from just the Essence Reaver alone.
And now that Lucian has passed that level 11 mark, oh, we're going to see ultimates do a lot of damage to people now. It's, especially with this itemization, it's going to come out early and often and hurt a lot. That is one of the things that is making Lucian very strong right now. Lane dominance is the other. Not against a Caitlyn, though. As we talked about, the range is too much pretty much to overcome. Seras wants Lep here, doesn't get the second bomb, so that's going to spell the end of his chase, I would imagine. He's not going past those turrets.
BRTT. However, Milwaukee is also caught. Both the AD carries are not in the greatest positions, and the onslaught of shadows goes right on top of the AD carry. Kami, though, blocks up that choke point, and this is the turnaround that the Brazilians need. The double kill comes in. That's a 3-for-0 going over to Brazil, and they will immediately start the Baron being in the perfect place. Luke's is going to clear out the wards as well. I don't know what the Japanese are going to do about this. They have Seras coming over, but I think the Baron's dead.
Well, this was another situation where we're seeing a team putting members with global similar spells down in the bottom lane where they just can't cross the map in time.
Uh-oh, this is not a good situation for Japan. Dara will have to flash away, get away from the slow field. Meanwhile, Revolta trying to get in there. Dara is going to be the sacrificial lamb, allowing Seras to live. Seras was trying to get in range for the Chrono Shift, but probably wouldn't have even saved Dara had he got it down. Dual bombs come out, will be stunning up that front wave of minions. And those bombs are coming out extremely fast. Even with those Baroned up minions, the minion wave is already hit.
Yes, and this was the beginning of the fight. Watch Luke's ultimate here. Doesn't actually hit anybody, but it was a nice attempt. They could see Hecarim coming in. He's like, I'm going to stop him before the ult. But the ult comes out just as the marker goes down for the Tempered Fate. At this point, you're trying to fight an Azir in enclosed space. Not going to happen after the ultimate. And Kami picked up a couple of kills. Sadly, sold the Dark Seal. Is opting just for the Rabadons.
Feels bad, man.
I mean, that's the thing. He died twice. Once in lane and once after means that he actually is not a good item anymore.
Is that the cutoff?
That pretty much is the cutoff. As soon as you start losing stacks, it doesn't become valuable anymore. That's very basic, but at the same time,
this was not a net game, boys. Gotta sell the Dark Seal.
I feel like the fact that he was sat on Dark Seal until 27 minutes into the game is a big indicator of how Kami felt the game was going. He didn't feel strong enough to have picked up those kills earlier in the game, so it's not a worthwhile item anymore. So sell it, go for the Rabadons now, and hope you get AP off that, because I hear it gives you quite a lot.
Really stressed. Not have known. Not
I know,
at
right?
all. 5-2-2, Kami. And kind of a sign of respect as well to the Japanese that they have done enough to shut down Kami from snowballing out of control. The Brazilian faker himself. But 250 farm also under his belt. That was an AoE stun coming down. Revolta will be tanking up that culling. And that is a bouncer of command coming in for Luke in that bottom lane. That minion the hero minion. Look at the AoE damage, absolutely amazing. Saras will be ulting himself there, and actually didn't die, so he has to go back to base. Actually, more valuable to die at that point. And that cannon minion is doing work. Look how much damage it's doing! That's like 5% every single time it fires an auto. And Havolta and the rest of the team will just nuke that one down. BRTT coming in with the long-range sniper bolt. And the cannon minion is still alive.
It is. I mean, everything about this composition has been orchestrated for just pushing towers. And the LJL team haven't been able to cope.
Volta trying to get out of there, will be followed down by the onslaught of shadows, and Spectral Riders will find him, but Evie will not. Comes up with the Sun Disc, that will be going down as well as the minion wave floods against that tower, crashes in. Meanwhile, Kami jumps over the wall. The rest of the team will be heading back to base, has the enhanced Baron recall. Going back to base, only 4 seconds now. 12 and 6 overall. Have not had a lot of time to kind of step back and look at the game. Been action all over the place here,
yes.
Stress. But almost on the horizon of getting a 10k gold lead. And even with this new crazy patch, it's still a lot of money.
And honestly, that's one of the limitations, I feel, of Zilean. Is in a very hectic, very quick kill-based game, the ultimate is on too long of a cooldown now. It just... You're not able to use the ultimate as effectively and efficiently as you can because everybody's dying around you. And if you can only save one person and the rest of your team dies, that's not an effective use. And yes, you have a lot of zone control with the bombs that come from Zilean, and it's clear that Syros is very strong on Zilean, does have a significant CS lead, but Kami has had more impact on team fights in general because of the fights that CBLOL team have taken over the LJL in those enclosed spaces. The one in the top tri-bush comes to mind, where Kami just absolutely decimated the LJL team.
Yeah, I mean, Evie doesn't really have a lot to do because he's not super strong right now. He has the Starix Gauge, he's got the Triforce, that's basically sitting at his core, but great if you can just send him in, comes in at light speed, but it's just Kami with the ultimate every single time. He can't get past that.
Yep.
And now in this top lane, that tower will also be going down before LJL can respond. And the minion is back, boys. Not baroned up though, so not quite as glorious as the one was before in bot lane. It's encroaching on the position, Murky in a 1v1 to the death with it. And there's the culling coming out onto BRTT, trying to get in range, but Rain is CC'd up. Gonna have to throw out the barrel roll. Dara heading back, the ultimate comes through. Will not be landing, no Tempered Fate today for the Japanese. And the minion wave now flooding into the top lane to see if the kill can come out. Dara's dropping very low, he'll have to go back to base. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, by the way, there's a Shed chilling out.
Yeah.
Just that.
Just taking down the inhibitor. So at this point, this is all on CBLOL. I mean, LJL, what they have to do here is try and get a teleport flank with the Hecarim. Try and take out BRTT or Kami if they can. But as you already said, the Kami ultimate is just going to completely push away Hecarim. I don't think they can get enough damage done. He wants to go. Oh, he got clipped on the wall.
He might get it, but no, he has to turn back, and the Starix Gauge comes in. Saras will be ulting himself. He'll be going down. Now comes the re-engage. But there you go, textbook every single time. Kami with the ultimate, splitting up the fight. But Havolta's dropping low. Evie now rampaging after Kami. He'll be flashing away, taking him down with final breath. Loop now on the run. Lep wasn't even able to get into that team fight. I believe the ultimate was cancelled as his target did die. Loop is still trying to get away, but Saras, he is relentless, and the double tap coming in from Ueki will be enough to take him out. That'll be a 4-for-2 coming in for the Japanese.
Yeah, look at this. Evie gets clipped on the wall, slows him down. This could have been a cleaner fight, but watch for the Gragas ultimate that comes after the Emperor's Divide. It blasts BRT back into his own, the enemy team. Blasts him in, he gets taken out. Kami then cannot really peel back as Evie turns his attention back onto him. At this point, the rest of the LJL team are just there to do a little bit of damage, and you can see the Stand United was used, the target died, and Lep didn't teleport into the second half of that fight, and it meant the numbers advantage for the LJL team holds them in this game. They are significantly far behind still, as Baron is due up in 30 seconds time, but nice little fight. Could have gone cleaner from both sides, though.
Oh yeah, but that has bought the Japanese squad a lot of breathing room. They needed that to basically stay in this game. Yeah. They do need to win another fight after this, though, and that will be centered around Baron Nashor. 14 seconds remaining. If the Japanese can get in there, place down some walls, Brazil finds it maybe a little bit harder to get right in there. Just take it immediately. Wards come out, the vision war has begun. Dara is kind of by himself, though. will have to head back to the safety of Brain. Revolta clearing out some wards in the bottom side. It's so difficult though, with that bottom inhibitor being down and Baron being up on the map. It's just an impossible decision for the Japanese to make.
It really is. I mean, they have to leave Evie there. Luckily, that wasn't a teleport play in the last fight. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible for the LJL team to find that kind of opening. They do have the option to teleport if the CBLOL team push up past a ward line. That ward line hasn't been established in the bottom side of the map yet, but if it happens top lane or top side, then CBLOL could be in trouble. The thing is, it's pretty quick for the Brazilian team to clear out all the wards here around Baron. LJL are going to establish some, but they're not going to survive for very long here.
No, neither will that ward. That ward's pretty dead. So is the Risk Scuffler. But 4 Dragons now over to Brazil is a big deal. 6 minutes time, that will also become a factor that Japan will have to contest. Loop around the area, trying his best to try and get some of that away. You are just seeing Evie literally just stand in base for the home guard. That's all he's doing right now, just so he can be ready with his teleport, just in case an engage happens, or they want to set it up. Void Rush comes across, he'll be heading back onto the map, and just clearing out some minions. The calm before the storm really here, Stress.
Yes.
Because the fight will inevitably happen.
I mean, the biggest problem that the Japanese team has had to deal with this entire game is the fact that they've never had the minion control. They've never had the opportunity to have wave control because there are still 2 outer towers standing in their side lanes for the Brazilian team. You cannot establish wave control in that situation, and they're so far behind that even if they did establish it, the CBLOL team at this point would be able to just run over them in the other lanes. Honestly, Brazil just would be willing to trade away those outer towers. At this point, LJL have to basically ace the Brazilian team, take the Baron, and then look to establish a lead or a comeback from there. But that is a very, very long way away from this. And you can see even Lep is still causing problems in the base.
Baron has been started out. The Tempered Fate comes across, doesn't quite find Rain. He'll be heading over the wall, does not get the steal, and he'll be taken out. This will be the last hurrah coming in for the Japanese to go for this fight. Evie comes in, will be trying to obliterate Kami, but there's the ultimate. He'll be using his ultimate through that one. And Milwaukee from the backside decimates the back line. What is happening? Lep is still alive, but his back line is non-existent. Meanwhile, Revolta jumps over the wall, and the Japanese, all of a sudden, this amazing play from Brazil looks to be falling apart. And the tower has fallen 4-for-1 over to the Japanese squad. How much can they take from this?
Well, Lucian showed up with his damage, that's for sure. Finished that Infinity Edge on top of the Essence Reaver Static Shiv, and it was enough to take out the low health members of the CBLOL team, and a lot of that came from Evie getting onto Kami. His ultimate didn't quite land flush, but the damage that Evie has with that Sterix Cage and the Triforce Revolta just gonna waste a little bit more time.
Yeah, he's literally just trying to waste the time. I don't think it's worth.
No, I don't think it's worth either. He was the only member with Baron buff still on. I mean, they've got a fast-pushing team as it is. Add on the Baron minions on top of that. I don't know whether that was actually going to end up worth for Revolta. At this point, watch the positioning from the LJL team coming in from the bottom side. Luke gets chunked out, doesn't have his ultimate in this fight either, remember. BRTT cannot find the right opportunity. He's trying to decide between Evie and Mueki to attack. He picks Evie and lines up. Oh, it was actually a bomb that came from Xeros that did it.
Oh, dirty.
I thought it was a piercing light that did that much damage, but that was a massive, massive hit from Xeros inside the pit. There's the Venn diagrams in action.
From there on, solo queue was destroyed as mid laners from all over the world picked up Zillion.
I mean, that's happened before, and it was one of the worst timelines.
Yeah, the darkest timeline. Yeah, Xeros is going to be chasing after. He's picking up bombs, he's throwing out bombs. Bombs everywhere. Ziggs, eat your heart out. Rainbrain heading into this fight. He's basically by himself though. Mueki is there behind him. The jungler's already dead. Kami actually gets tagged by the binding even though he goes for the slide and glide. Mueki Going to be in this back line, still good to go. Evie using his ultimate onto BRTT, but instantly has to back off there. Is the Tempered Fate, but the shutdown comes onto the Lucian. BRTT still alive and kicking, and Dara will be taken out before he can even get to that priority target. This was looking so good from LJL, but now Evie will have to head back to base with literally his tail between his legs, and Zillion trying to defend this with the minion wave, but the bannered up minion is going to say no to that, takes out that turret. This is going to be difficult to defend.
Oh man, BRTT is going to be so happy from that ultimate that came from Luke in the middle of that fight, just to close off an entrance, because BRTT looks at the map, sees only a Lucian in front of him, takes a step back and just starts unloading damage all the way onto the LJL team, takes out Lucian and looks to take out more. And at this point, the CBLOL team getting a little bit greedy if they overstay here. Look at the health bars, got to be careful. Evie can look to maybe run someone down very quickly here. This is a bit risky.
Yeah, that inhibitor should be falling though. Volta on those front lines. Evie looking to try and get in there. Great Shadow Dash will go on towards that Hecarim. Volta trying to get out of here. Lap as well will be sitting on top of Hecarim, making sure he can get him just as he comes up. I don't think the taunt landed there though. Just overshot just by a little off to the side. But they are good to go. No deaths in this engagement. The inhibitor, I believe, did die though.
It does look like the middle inhibitor died, the bottom lane inhibitor did not.
Oh, wow.
So only the one inhib comes through from that. Kind of greedy from the CBLOL team at this point. That they could have been punished a lot harder than they were, especially with Dragon coming up. It delayed their recalls, now delays the actual control of that area. They weren't able really to get too much more off that other than the middle lane inhibitor. Now LJL are just going to storm down looking for BRTT.
Yeah, got to go fast, but does not get the fear into his team. BRTT was able to get away. Had to use his flash for that privilege though, because that is a flashless Caitlyn for the next fight. And AD carries, their value goes up exponentially as the game goes on. Evie going to be tanking up the ace in the hole. This Dragon is going to be going down. It just matters
to get it.
Which team is going to pick it up. Mueki has been caught out.
Stolen!
The spike comes out. Volta gets it down. And now LJL has to be on the run. Rainbrain once again is going to be the sacrificial lamb. He'll be trying to get away from this squad. Dara is extremely slow, and Saros will be using extra movement speed basically for himself. He needs to get out alive. The double kill. BRTT is literally death incarnate coming into this game. Mueki with the call comes out. Not enough damage. He'll be going down. But Saros did manage to get his ultimate Altrum just in time. It's not going to matter because Kami still has his ultimate, and he divided Mueki a 4-0. And this should be the game for the Brazilian team.
All on a great steal from Revolta at that point. Now they're going to be able to finally crack the Nexus turrets, and that is going to be the game going to the CBLOL team. They're going to take their second win of the day.
2 games, and neither of them have been easy. The first one, 52 minutes, the second, 41. But always, Brazil comes out on top, taking the second game.
As you said, both of them haven't been easy, and a lot of it has been decision-making, getting stalled out throughout the games. LJL putting up a good fight. I mean, there were a lot of moments there that Syros around that Baron pit. Man, the damage that came from the bombs in the Baron pit, very impressive, but it just wasn't enough for the LJL team not to fall behind early. The massive lead that was accrued in the bottom lane by the CBLOL team went so far in finally closing this game out.
Good to see the smiles on the faces of the Brazil team in the bottom lane. Dara, Rainbrain rather, was actually just still looking at the damage graph. Guys, look at how much damage I did as Gragas.
Rainbrain just sat there like, I thought I had it. I thought I had the smite at the end.
Didn't realize the game was over. He was like, guys?
Stuck in the moment, frozen in time. Wasn't able to get the smite, but that's more of a Volta, just picking the right time, tunneling under, ignoring the fight, picks up 5th Dragon for his team, and turns that little fight on its head.
Literally clinched the game for his team right there. In another 6 minutes, I'm sure we would have seen another fight, but the Japanese were definitely coming back into that one, and that was getting more and more sketchy for the Brazilian team. However, that's what I thought in the first game of the day as well, and then they won that one as well.
Yeah,
so,
the same. I was looking at the first game of the day like, just engage, dive turrets.
Just do it.
That time it was just push turrets for the CBLOL team. Good strategy out by them. Just take as many things that can push, no armor, no no resistance turrets in the early game, and just go, we're going to just take 6 turrets and then try and take the game from there. Impressive beginning of the game. I'd like to see them maybe work on mid-game shot calling a little bit more. It seems to be somewhat sketchy.
Yeah, me too. I think the biggest takeaway from that game for me, though, was getting to see the Zillion. Saros did manage to get that pick. Usually it's usually banned against him, so we actually saw that in this game. We saw why it was so strong. That Baron fight in particular had to slow that down to 0.25 speed just to see how much damage came out from those bombs. But glad we saw it, and I think even with the results of this game, we're going to see teams starting to take that away from him.
And on the Zillion, he killed the Brazilian Faker. So is that like the same as killing Faker in middle lane, 1v1 kill? He got it on the Zillion.
Yeah, I mean, one of those things is like Kami greater than Faker, therefore Saros greater than Faker.
You heard it.
Who knows? But anyway, we're going to send it over to Pastry Time, who has stood on stage with one of the players.
Thank you very much, Pulse and Stress. I'm here with BRTT, the AD carry Brazilian All-Star here. First of all, you played Misfortune, you played Caitlyn, you're playing all the new champions. How do you like AD carry on the patch, just in general?
Então, até agora você jogou de Misfortune, jogou de Caitlyn. Até agora, o que você está achando para o AD Carry nesse novo patch?
Eu tô achando que é um patch que tá bastante divertido jogar de AD Carry e o AD Carry é uma role que vem vindo muito forte. Com as mudanças nos AD Carries, tem tipo muitas builds para você fazer, então eu diria que tá bem mais divertido de se jogar.
This new patch is really fun to play AD Carry since there's a lot of different builds that you can do, so it's a lot of fun and it's really, really hard, and it's really, really nice.
Well, that's 2 different champions already. Is there maybe some other stuff you've got, maybe secret stuff to play?
Você já jogou com 2 AD Carries em 2 jogos, tem mais alguns outros segredos que você vai mostrar nesse torneio?
Eu não diria que tem algum segredo assim, eu sou um jogador conhecido por ter a Champion Pool muito grande. Então, acho que se tiver oportunidade, eu vou pegar o que for melhor para o time, seja lá o que for.
So I'm known to have a really big champion pool. So either way, if my team needs anything, I'll just pick it.
All right, very excited for that. And speaking of your team, how have you found playing on a kind of a mixed team, an all-star team? You guys are 2-0 already, which is pretty good. But Revolta earlier said they maybe having some trouble talking to each other. Just how have you found the team, and how do you like your teammates?
Então, você a primeira vez jogando junto esse time, o Revolta disse antes que no primeiro jogo teve um pequeno problema de comunicação. Como que você acha que o time está vindo?
Eu acho que o time vem vindo muito forte. Nós temos jogadores excepcionais em cada posição. Acho que o que a Revolta falou é certo, porque nós não somos um time, nós não temos team play nenhum. É claro que a gente vai ter problemas de comunicação. É só questão de ir jogando e aprimorando essa comunicação e melhorando que a gente chega.
Yeah, we have really good players in every lane, but as Revolta said, of course, we would have some trouble communicating since we've never played together. So step by step, play against after play, we'll still build our confidence and build our communication on it.
Well, it seems to be going well for you. Congratulations so far for staying undefeated. And with that, we are going to throw it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Pastry Time. Always fun to hear from BRTT. 2-0. Let's evaluate this game, though, for them. Starting off in picks and bans, they gave him the Zillion, man, and he wrecked earlier.
What the heck? You just don't do that anymore. I thought we learnt this lesson at IWCA when the same gauntlet was thrown down and Saros went absolutely berserk. And that game, again, that man does everything he can to try and win. The Baron fights, blocking off mid lane when everyone was roaming up. I think that Banner of Command really was the MVP because that was the only thing that was stopping him from just denying siege after siege.
And I definitely think on the side of the Brazilian squad, they need to shape up their mid-game. Stress was alluding to it in their post-game. In both of the series we've seen today, they've gone a little bit over their lead, basically. They've overstepped their bounds, been punished for it, and they've allowed their opponents back into the game. Both times Brazil has been able to regain control, but you can't take those risks and expect to not expect to lose games at some point once these other squads also find some synergy.
I feel like even though BRTT plays phenomenal